Hi, it's Jon Mitchell, and this is another installment of the Mayor's Weekly Update. So I wanted to talk about two subjects today. The first is brownfields. So you might wonder, well, what's a brownfield? A brownfield is a site, a property that was once an industrial property that remains contaminated from industrial pollution in the distant past. And so you might say, well, what's the big deal with that? Well, the big deal is that a lot of these sites, and we have many, many around the city, are hard to redevelop because it costs a lot of money to pull pollutants out of the ground. So over the last 20 years or so, the federal government's had programs to give money to real estate developers and cities to assess how much pollution a given site might have and how much it'll cost, direct money to actually pull the pollutants out of the ground, and that's the brownfield program. And it's worked really well for us. We've had a number of sites across the city that have benefited from both the federal and the state brownfield program that have allowed the city to redevelop really good sites. So one was, if you remember, where Alden Corrugated used to be on Church Street that burnt down years ago. That was contaminated, and Sid Wainer and Sons wanted to take some of it to put some greenhouses that are there. You'll see them today. That required some federal money to pull all the contaminants out of the ground to make that a viable site. Well, why is this important? It's important because it enables cities that have lots of industrial contamination to get their properties back into active use, to get businesses running and to create jobs, and that's the idea. So last week I testified before a congressional subcommittee on the topic about New Bedford's experience and the need for more funding. And well, to my surprise, there seemed to be a lot of support on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats alike. And we've come used to having a Congress that hasn't gotten much done in recent years because of infighting and lots of other reasons. So it was actually surprising to see that a lot of folks really agreed on the need to give cities more money and more flexibility on using brownfield money to redevelop sites. So I was pleased to go there on behalf of New Bedford and on behalf of the U.S. Conference of Mayors as well, and hopefully we'll get some more money to turn properties that are contaminated into productive use. The NSTAR site is an example of that now, a site that needs money, but there are the Parker Street Waste site, a number of them around the city that need work. The other topic I want to talk about today is the topic of medical marijuana. So this week the city entered into a host community agreement with an outfit called Beacon, which is a medical marijuana dispensary company. And so this is they have a site on Hathaway Road, right by Captain Frank's, over by the old Cinema 140. Where they'll have a medical marijuana dispensary. So the idea here is, and you've heard me say this before, I've been reluctant to give the green light to medical marijuana dispensaries because of what I saw as a risk to children of having medical marijuana dispensed around the city. It just seemed to me to be too much of a threat to our neighborhoods. I think things have changed, however, with the passage of marijuana legalization back in November, just a few months ago. Under that law, any individual, any adult is allowed to grow up to 12 marijuana plants in his or her home. That, I think, changes everything. It means that there could conceivably and legally be marijuana all over the place. So the threat, the idea that we should keep out any medical marijuana dispensary, I think, is unrealistic. It's not going to change matters at all. There will be marijuana prevalent in the city, whether you like it or not. I think now the task really is to make sure that any medical marijuana facility or any retail marijuana facility are put in the right places in the city. And so what we have in this particular case is a facility that is along Hathaway Road that's not near a neighborhood. It's in an entirely commercial area. The city's getting a good deal. We got a good deal out of it. On most occasions when a business comes to town, we give them a tax break if they're creating lots of jobs. There's no tax break here. They've got to pay all their taxes, and they've got to pay on top of that 3.75% of their gross income. So that itself could amount to a few $100,000s a year. They've got to hire new Bedford residents. They've got to have a small sign so they don't have some big thing that's visible from the highway. So overall, it's a good deal for the city. At the same time, we've proposed to the City Council the imposition of a moratorium on new marijuana retail establishments. And the reason for that is that before the law is fully formed, the legislature is about to jump in and amend the referendum. We don't want to be out there zoning these things and creating other laws that might be superseded by state law. So by putting a moratorium in place through next year, we'll have time to let the state go first and then to carefully consider what the needs of the city are. I think the needs are primarily about zoning, making sure that marijuana establishments are not set up near schools or churches or playgrounds or other sensitive areas that might have the effect of undermining our neighborhood quality of life. So that's the idea behind it. You've probably read a little bit about it, and so that's the rationale. And that's all I have for this week. By the time you see me next week, I will have gotten a haircut. I need one badly at this point. So until then, this has been the Mayor's Weekly Update.